news. Morning in America, Bill Bennett and the gang.
The sun's rising over America. Bill Bennett's Morning in America. Let's get rolling. Call 866-680-6464. Atlantic to Pacific, north to south, across the globe. It's Bill Bennett's Morning in America. Here's Bill.
Zuhdi Jasser joins us, one of the people we most admire in America. He's president and founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. He's the author of A Battle, the Soul of Islam, an American Muslim patriot's fight to save his faith, and he joins us now. Good morning, Zuhdi.
Good morning, Bill. It's great to be with you.
Great to be with you. What's going on? How's the book doing? What do you think? What do you make of these events in the Middle East?
Well, it's doing great, and, with events in the Middle East, people are, as they lose hope, they're looking for hope, and unfortunately, this administration seems to be on the defense and seems to have lost the ability or know how to do the case for liberty and give the case for liberty, and that's really what my book is all about. My family came to America looking for liberty and found it, and I think the solution in the Middle East is in defending those people that want liberty and not being embarrassed to make the case for freedom and not being embarrassed about freedom of speech and all of which comes with it, and the strength that it needs and the courage that it needs to stand behind it, and rather than listen to the grievance culture that blames videos or blames policies and conspiracy theories, realize that we're in a battle between ideologies. One's theocracy and the other is freedom.
I was going to say, and you don't need to go with me on this, but in terms of, talking about the freedoms, talking about the real debate, it seems to me this administration needs to learn and develop the habit of telling the truth, too. Again, you may not want to go there with me, but this was untruthful, what it did, the rushing out Susan Rice to say it was all this video, and the video caused it all. This little video made everything happen, when in fact we now know what many of us suspected. It was 9/11, and Al-Qaeda is not vanquished completely by any stretch, and there are people who mean us harm.
Well, this is where our soft power has almost disappeared. It's at the lowest I think it's ever been, and people wonder why the moderates on the ground don't look to us for leadership anymore when they realize that our administration seems to have a narrative that somehow the war is over, and in the meanwhile they're losing their lives over there trying to fight against either the secular fascists of the old guard of Mubarak and Assad and all these others, or the same old theocratic fascists, and they see America trying to spike the football and say it's done, and the people there know it's not done. And I'll tell you, as a naval officer, I saw these two SEALs that gave their lives that are now being told that they were part of some security detail, but the reality is they weren't even that. I saw a blog yesterday that, the president in his radio address seemed to say that they were part of a security detail, but they ran into the breach, which they weren't even in. And, they changed the narrative to somehow make it seem that the war on terror is over, and they don't want to admit that it's far from it.
Let's look at different places here and get your take. Again, our guest is Zuhdi Jasser. You can talk to him, 866-680-6464. The book is A Battle for the Soul of Islam, an American Muslim patriot's fight to save his faith. I know foreign policy is not your field. You're a doctor, and you're an expert on Islam, but let's look at some of these countries. Libya, is this a Muslim country?
Well, that whole label, I wish we'd drop. I mean, it's a Muslim-majority country.
Okay.
People that won the election were not the radicals, were not the Salafists. There were, for the few hundreds that were demonstrating against us about the video, there were thousands that were carrying signs, thank you, America, please keep us, please stay here with the peace, not only with the war. So they're struggling. And the Salafists, the radical ideologues, are trying to get us out. They would want nothing more than for America to disappear from any influence so that the liberals can be decimated.
Yeah.
And
I don't mean it in an insulting way when I say it. I guess I mean, is it a largely Muslim country? I mean, India's got a lot of Muslims. It's not a threat to us, correct?
Yeah,
for the most
absolutely.
Part? Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Libya is a significantly majority Muslim country.
Well, but that government seems to be basically oriented in our direction, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Let's look at the one everybody's talking about now, and we have some action in the House here to withhold aid to Egypt. Muslim Brotherhood, Morsi. What are we to make of this?
Well, the Muslim Brotherhood is now running the government. They, on the one hand, there are so many people that just want to see good coming from them, but yet are ignoring the ideas. You have Morsi, who is basically a truther that has said 9/11 was a conspiracy. He's claiming that they're moving towards a democratic society, but yet to them, democracy is simply elections. He's making clear moves to implement forms and interpretations of Sharia that give lesser status to women, that give lesser rights to other faiths, such as the Coptic religion. And we're not holding them accountable to that. We're simply giving them lip service of, well, okay, you had elections, so therefore you're a democracy. He's met with Hamas leadership 3 times already, and yet has not, their constitution has, if anything, starting to move towards more enforcement of blasphemy laws. And they recently made statements, their ministers giving us lectures about our First Amendment now, and telling us that we need to make amends with no longer criticizing Islam and Muslims, because that's basically, quote-unquote, incitement to violence, which is just absurd.
Under Mubarak, it wasn't any picnic, but is this situation worse, or is it going to get worse? Is it overall going to be progress or regress?
Well, I think it's going to get worse, because the difference is the Islamists are dictators with a lack of a fear to die. They have a religious mandate to run society, and they think that they're going to go to heaven as a result. And many of us moderate Muslims disagree with that whole theocratic mindset. But remember, if people think that the Islamist is a spring, it's more of the old. The Islamists came out of the soil that was tilled by Mubarak, who showed the protocols every year, who fed the largest institution of Islam, if you will. If there was a Vatican, it would be Al-Azhar University in Cairo. And their statements about the need for blasphemy laws now, the criticism of the West about its war on Islam, that the verbiage from just 1 week ago shows that these mobs are not just mobs. They are driven by a leadership of our faith coming out of Al-Azhar that's in connection with the government there now. That is no small entity. It's a significant power structure. So the soil there is the same old soil, and we need to not continue to till the old one, but start a new soil that's going to take a few years to build new
and do you,
infrastructure.
In this regard, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, do you believe we should give this $1 billion or $1.5 billion in aid to Egypt?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
We need to tie strings to it, and but I'm not an isolationist, and that I think if we withdraw completely, the Turkeys and the Saudis of the world, the Irans of the world, will really continue to feed and fuel our enemies. So what do? We don't give it to a military that's our enemy ideologically, but we start to work on the ground to help and support the true moderates, the liberals, and not be embarrassed to say that, the old paradigm, and I have a chapter in my book called Changing the Paradigm, and the old paradigm that, you're either an enemy or an ally, it's like a binary thing, has got to end. And we start working on the ground to, just like we did in Eastern Europe, to help those who truly shared our principles of free market and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, rather than Morsi's government that signed the Cairo Declaration, which is an abomination to freedom.
Let's go to the United States and Muslims in the United States. Keith in Philadelphia on with Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Go ahead, Keith.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call, gentlemen.
Certainly.
Every religion pretty much thinks, they have the right answers and the way and that, and to that end, they send missionaries throughout the world and do various things to try and promote their views and get converts, and that's, everyone understands that. But it seems that Islam is just extreme in that, in what they do, and, not, since most people haven't read the Quran, all we basically hear is, those that seem to be shouting or talking the loudest, and it seems like, and this is where I think somebody like yourself, Zuhdi, or others of your faith that aren't in the militant camp need to be much more aggressive and take a much more active role in saying this is what the Quran says and not what these people are saying it says. Because
Keith.
for those of us that aren't Islams or experts in it, it sounds like their view and their holy book says that they are supposed to dominate the world, have one religion, and to achieve that end, they are allowed to lie, deceive, kill, tax, do all kinds of horrible things to
Keith.
those that don't believe, and that's unfortunately Keith. Putting Islam in a very bad light.
Right. Thank you, Zuhdi. You've heard this question 1,000 times, and that's because it's on the minds of millions of people.
Yeah, I mean, amen, brother. I couldn't agree with you more. And we are forming coalitions that goes beyond just my organization, but we have an American Islamic Leadership Coalition of journalists and leaders of now over 30 organizations that have come together. I just came from Toronto speaking to a group of a few hundred Muslims that started an organization called Muslims Facing Tomorrow, and working with now Muslims in Europe to begin to build this infrastructure of reformists that, I have a chapter in my book. I talk about misinterpretation of the Quran and how we should reinterpret various passages and separate history from religion. And there's no doubt we are outpowered by petrodollars, outpowered by clerics that have been around for with institutions for centuries, and we have to directly confront Al-Azhar. And what I can ask you to do, and as Bill has been doing and others, is give platforms to moderates and allow us to challenge and have this battle within Islam and not hand over and say, well, this is Islam, is how the clerics define it, and that's it. There are Jeffersons and Madisons out there in our faith community.
All right, you want to stay one more segment?
Absolutely.
We got more questions. Is there a Muslim moral majority who more agree with you than with Zawahiri?
Absolutely,
Okay.
I really believe so. And
right.
It's about morality. It's about truth and honesty versus
All right.
The liars who I think are the clerics.
I guess we want to see when that's the case. When's the 1 million man march, the 10 million Muslim man march, something like that. We'll leave that for Zuhdi when we come back. We also see Mike is calling and others calling. The audience loves Zuhdi Jasser, as we all do. President and founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, and the book is A Battle for the Soul of Islam.